Look, I need to tell you something right off the bat. I am not a bad person. Well, not a bad Keltharian, technically. And I certainly did not mean for things to go the way they did with the humans. But when you have been a surgeon for 342 cycles, and you have operated on 17 different species across 9-star systems, you start to think you know a thing or two about biology, about pain, about suffering. You start to think you have seen it all. And then you meet humanity, and they laugh at you. My name is Vorix, just Vorix. No fancy titles, no complicated surname that you cannot pronounce. Simple. Clean. Like my operating theater used to be before I met Captain Marcus Webb and his absolutely insane crew of the exploration vessel Frontier Dawn. Before I learned that humans do not just experience pain differently than every other species in the known galaxy. They weaponize it. They romanticize it. They turn it into poetry, into jokes, into something I still cannot wrap my three-fingered hands around even now. Let me back up. Start from the beginning. Because this story, this absolutely ridiculous sequence of events that changed everything I thought I knew about medicine and biology and the universe itself, it started on a Tuesday, or what the humans call Tuesday. We Keltharians do not have days of the week. We have cycles and phases and perfectly logical time measurements that do not require naming conventions based on ancient deities. But humans, they have Tuesday, and apparently Tuesday is when the weird stuff happens. I was stationed on Medical Outpost 7, orbiting the 4th planet in the Deneb sector. Quiet post. Boring even. Most of my patients were Keltharians like myself, or the occasional Vryn trader with digestive issues from eating too much fermented kelp. Standard stuff. Routine procedures. The kind of work that lets your mind wander while your hands do the cutting. Then the distress signal came in. Human vessel. Critical injuries. Life support failing. 3 crew members in desperate need of immediate surgical intervention. I remember feeling annoyed. Genuinely annoyed. Because I had never operated on a human before, and the last thing I wanted was to spend my evening cycle reading through their medical database, trying to figure out which organs were essential and which ones they could apparently live without. Yes, I had heard the rumors. Humans could survive with 1 kidney, 1 lung, half a liver. They were redundant in the strangest ways. But I am a professional. So I prepped my theater, sterilized my instruments, and waited for the transport ship to dock. The first human through the airlock was not a patient. She was tall, dark-skinned, with hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Her uniform was scorched on one side, and there was a streak of something that might have been blood or might have been engine grease across her cheek. She moved with purpose, with urgency. Her name was Lieutenant Kira Ozai, and the first thing she said to me was, "Please tell me you are not going to faint at the sight of human blood." I blinked. All 3 of my eyes. I am a surgeon. Yeah, I got that from the whole, medical bay situation. She gestured at my pristine operating room. But human blood is red, bright red. Some species find it disturbing. I have operated on 17 different species, I informed her, drawing myself up to my full height, which was still shorter than her. Humans are absurdly tall. I do not faint. Great. Fantastic. Because we have got 3 people who are going to die if you do. She was not exaggerating. The first patient they brought in was a young man, maybe 25 in human years. His name was Private Liam Cross. He had a piece of metal the size of my forearm embedded in his chest cavity. It had punched through his ribcage, narrowly missed his heart, and was currently preventing him from bleeding out by essentially plugging the hole it had created. He was conscious. Fully conscious. And he looked up at me with pale blue eyes and said, "Hey, Doc. This is gonna hurt, right?" I stared at him. "You have a foreign object impaled through your thoracic cavity." "Of course it is going to hurt." He grinned. Actually grinned. Blood on his teeth. "Cool. Just wanted to know." I looked at Lieutenant Osei. Is he in shock? Nope. That is just Liam. The second patient was worse. Engineer Maya Flores. Both legs crushed below the knee when a support beam collapsed during whatever disaster had crippled their ship. Compound fractures. Severe tissue damage. She would need extensive reconstruction, possibly amputation. She was also conscious. Also calm. And when I approached her gurney, she said, "Do not let them amputate. I do not care how bad it looks. Fix it. I will assess the damage and make the appropriate medical decision," I told her. "No," her voice was firm. "Hard. You will fix it." Because I did not survive 3 years on the frontier just to come home without my legs. The third patient was the worst. Captain Marcus Webb himself. Severe internal bleeding. Multiple organ damage. His liver was lacerated, his spleen was ruptured, and he had what the humans call a pneumothorax. Collapsed lung. He needed immediate surgery or he would be dead within the hour. He was unconscious. Finally, a patient who had the good sense to pass out from their injuries. I triaged, prioritized. The captain first, then the engineer, then the private with the impalement. Standard protocol. Lieutenant Jose stayed in the observation room, watching, and I began. Human anatomy is strange. Let me just say that up front. They have these tiny little bones in their ears, 3 on each side, that serve no purpose I can identify except to make inner ear surgery a nightmare. They have an appendix, a vestigial organ that apparently used to do something useful but now just sits there waiting to explode and kill them. They have wisdom teeth. Teeth that grow in wrong and have to be surgically removed. Evolution did not optimize humans. It barely gave them a passing grade. But their cardiovascular system. Oh, their cardiovascular system is a work of art. Complex. Efficient. Beautiful in its redundancy. I worked on Captain Webb for 3 hours, repaired the liver laceration, removed the damaged spleen, reinflated the lung and sealed the puncture. He lost a lot of blood, more than most species could survive. But humans have this remarkable ability to just keep going, and to cling to life with a stubbornness that borders on biological spite. I stabilized him, closed him up, monitored his vitals, and then he woke up. Not slowly, not gently. He just opened his eyes and said, "Where is my crew?" I pushed him back down, gently but firmly. "Your crew is fine, you need to rest." "Liam? Maya? I am operating on them next. You need to stay still." He looked at me, really looked at me. And then he said something that made absolutely no sense. "Thanks, Doc. I owe you a drink." "You nearly died," I pointed out. "You should be in excruciating pain right now." "The anesthesia is wearing off." "Yeah," he winced. "I can feel that. Burns like hell. But I have had worse." I stared at him. "You have had worse than a ruptured spleen and a collapsed lung." "Broke my back once. Training accident. That was worse." And then he closed his eyes and went back to sleep. Just like that. As if we were discussing the weather and not catastrophic internal injuries. I moved on to Engineer Flores. Her legs were a mess. Shattered bone. Torn muscle. Compromised blood flow. By any reasonable medical standard, amputation was the logical choice. Clean cuts below the knee. Prosthetics. She would walk again within weeks. But she had said no. And something about the way she had said it made me pause. So I spent 6 hours reconstructing her legs, piece by piece. Bone grafts, vascular repair, muscle reattachment. It was delicate work, tedious. The kind of surgery that required absolute focus and precision. Halfway through, she woke up. The local anesthetic was still working, but she was conscious. Aware. "How is it looking?" she asked. "It is looking like you should be unconscious," I replied, not looking up from the microscopic sutures I was placing in a severed artery. "Cannot sleep. Too worried." She paused. "Are you going to save them?" "Your legs?" "Yes, probably, if you stop moving." Not my legs. My team. I glanced at her. Your captain is stable. Private Cross is next. Good. That is good. She was quiet for a moment. Then, this hurts, by the way. Just so you know. You are experiencing pain right now? Yeah, I mean the local is helping, but I can feel it. The pulling. The pressure. It is not great. I stopped. Looked at her directly. You are aware that I am currently operating on you. That you are watching me reconstruct your tibial artery. And you are making conversation? She shrugged. Or tried to. Hard to shrug when you are strapped to an operating table. What else am I going to do? Scream? That does not help anyone. Most species would be in shock, or unconscious, or you're begging for sedation. Yeah, well, she smiled. It was a tired smile. A painful smile. We are not most species, are we? No, they were not. I finished her surgery. Both legs intact. All functional. She would need physical therapy. Months of it. But she would walk. She would run. She would go back to her ship and her crew and her life on the frontier. And then I got to Private Liam Cross. The metal shard was still in his chest, still plugging the hole. I had sedated him, finally, because even humans have limits. Even they cannot stay conscious through this level of trauma. Or so I thought. I made my first incision, careful, precise, mapping out the damage. The metal had missed his heart by centimeters, literally centimeters. It had nicked his lung, cracked 2 ribs, but it had also, miraculously, missed every major artery. Lucky, impossibly lucky. I began the extraction, slowly, monitoring his vitals every second. One wrong move and he would bleed out faster than I could stop it. And then he opened his eyes. Hey, Doc. I nearly dropped my scalpel. You are supposed to be unconscious. Yeah, I know. But I can feel you pulling on that thing and it is super weird. I had to see what was happening. You can feel this? Through the anesthesia? I mean, kind of? It is more like pressure than pain. Like someone is rearranging my insides. Which I guess you are. I stared at him. You need to go back to sleep. Cannot. Too interesting. He craned his neck, trying to see the surgical site. How bad is it? It is bad. It is very bad. And you are making it worse by moving. Sorry. He did not sound sorry. He sounded fascinated. Is that my rib? The white thing? Yes, your fractured rib, which you are not supposed to be looking at. Huh. Neat. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask Lieutenant Osei if all humans were like this, if this was normal, if every single one of them treated life-threatening injuries like a mildly interesting science experiment. But I had a job to do. So I extracted the metal, sealed the bleeders, repaired the lung tissue, stabilized the ribs, and through it all, Private Liam Cross provided commentary. Wow, that is a lot of blood. Yes. Am I going to have a cool scar? Probably. Nice. Chicks dig scars. I did not ask what chicks were. I did not want to know. By the time I finished, the sun was rising on the planet below, or what passed for a sun. I had been operating for 14 hours straight. I was exhausted, mentally, physically, emotionally, and all 3 of my patients were alive, stable, recovering. Lieutenant Osei met me in the observation room. You did it. I did my job, I replied. No, she shook her head. You did more than that. You saved them, all 3 of them, when most surgeons would have made the easy calls, amputated. Let them go. You fought for them. I am a surgeon, I said again. It is what I do. She smiled. Yeah, but you are a good one. I did not know how to respond to that. So I just nodded and went to check on my patients. Captain Webb was awake, sitting up, against all medical advice. He looked pale, drawn, but alive. "How are you feeling?" I asked. "Like someone took my insides out and put them back in wrong." "That is because someone did." He laughed, actually laughed, and then winced. "Oh, note to self. Do not laugh." "Note to self?" I echoed. "Stay in bed. Rest. Let your body heal. You're not. Got a ship to fix. A crew to take care of. Your crew is fine. They are recovering. You need to do the same." He met my eyes. "All three of them. You do not understand. They are my responsibility. I put them in danger. I need to make it right." And there it was. That thing I had been sensing. That undercurrent. That strange, incomprehensible human need to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. "You did not cause the accident," I pointed out. "No, but I am the captain. It is my job to keep them safe. And I failed. You are all alive. That is not failure. It is not success either." I did not argue with him. What was the point? Humans had their own logic, their own code, and it did not align with anything I understood. I checked on Engineer Flores next. She was asleep. Finally, her legs were wrapped in regenerative bandages, neural stimulators attached to promote healing. She would be in pain when she woke up. Significant pain. But she would heal. And finally, Private Cross. He was awake. Of course he was. Probably had not slept at all. "Hey, Doc." He grinned when he saw me. "Thanks for not letting me die." "You are welcome." "So, when can I get out of here?" "In approximately 6 weeks. If you follow the recovery protocol." "Which you will not." He laughed. "You got me figured out already, huh? You are not subtle." "Fair enough." He shifted, winced. "This does hurt, by the way. Now that the adrenaline is gone. Hurts a lot. I can increase your pain medication." "Nah, I am good. Pain means I am alive, right?" I paused, looked at him. That is an interesting philosophy. "Not really. Just truth. You cannot hurt if you are dead. So if I am hurting, I must be alive. And being alive is pretty great, even when it sucks." I thought about that for a long time after I left his room. About pain. About what it meant. About how every species I had ever treated viewed pain as something to be avoided, eliminated, controlled. But humans? They used it as a measuring stick, a reminder, proof of existence. It was insane. Completely insane, and I could not stop thinking about it. Over the next few days, I monitored my patients closely, checked their vitals, adjusted medications, watched them heal at a rate that would have been impressive for any species, but for humans seemed almost routine. They talked, constantly, about everything, about nothing. Captain Webb told stories about his crew, about their missions, about the things they had seen on the frontier. Engineer Flores discussed propulsion systems and quantum mechanics like I was supposed to understand. Private Cross made jokes. Bad jokes. Terrible jokes. But they made his crewmates laugh, and that seemed to be the point. And I listened, because I was curious. Because these humans had survived things that should have killed them. Because they treated pain like an old friend instead of an enemy. On the 5th day, Lieutenant Osei came to my office. She knocked. Polite, professional. "Come in," I said. She entered. Closed the door behind her. Sat down across from my desk. "I need to ask you something." "Ask." "Nesk. Why did you save Maya's legs?" I blinked. Because she asked me to. Most surgeons would not have listened. Would have made the call based on medical efficiency. Time, resources, risk. I am aware. So why did you? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Because she needed them. Not medically, but psychologically. Emotionally. She needed to know that she fought for something and won. That she did not give up. And if I had taken that from her, I would have saved her body but destroyed something essential inside her. Lieutenant Osai nodded slowly. You understand pain? I am beginning to. No. She leaned forward. You understand our pain. Human pain. It is not just physical. It is everything. It is psychological, emotional, spiritual. We do not separate them. We cannot. They are all connected. And when you hurt one part, you hurt all of it. I met her gaze. That seems inefficient. She laughed. Yeah, it does. But it is also what makes us human, what makes us survivors. Because when everything hurts, you learn to find joy in the smallest things. You learn to laugh at the darkness. You learn to keep going, even when every logical reason says to quit. That is irrational, completely. But it is also why we are still here, why we made it to the stars, why we will keep going no matter what the universe throws at us. She stood, extended her hand, a human gesture. I had read about it. The handshake, a symbol of trust, of respect. I stood, took her hand. Her grip was firm, warm, very warm. Humans run hot. Thank you, Vorix, she said, for everything. I was just doing my job. No, you were doing more than that. You were seeing us, really seeing us, and that means something. After she left, I sat alone in my office, processing, trying to reconcile everything I thought I knew about pain and suffering and medicine with what I had witnessed over the past 5 days. Humans were different. That much was obvious. But it was not just their biology. It was not just their redundant organs or their remarkable healing or their absurd pain tolerance. It was something deeper, something I could not quantify or measure or cut open and examine. It was their refusal to let pain define them, their ability to transmute suffering into strength, their insistence on finding meaning in the meaningless. And I realized, sitting there in my quiet office, that I had learned more about medicine in 5 days with 3 human patients than I had in 342 cycles with 17 different species. Because medicine is not just about fixing bodies. It is about understanding the beings who inhabit those bodies and their fears, their hopes, their incomprehensible human need to laugh in the face of death and tell it, not today. I did not understand human pain, not completely. Not yet. But I was beginning to. And that terrified me more than any surgery I had ever performed. Because if I was wrong about humans, about pain, about everything I thought I knew, what else was I wrong about? The thing about revelations is that they do not come all at once. They sneak up on you, one small observation at a time, one conversation. One moment where everything you thought you understood gets flipped upside down and shaken until your certainty falls out of your pockets. For me, that moment came on day 7, when Private Liam Cross tried to leave his bed and nearly collapsed on the floor of the medical bay. I heard the crash from my office, the clatter of medical equipment, the muffled cursing. Very creative cursing, actually. I made a mental note to look up what some of those phrases meant because they sounded anatomically improbable. I rushed into the recovery ward, and there he was, on his hands and knees, the floor, breathing hard, his chest bandages already showing spots of fresh blood. "What are you doing?" I demanded. He looked up at me. Pale, sweating, trying to walk. "You have a chest wound that is still healing. You are not supposed to be walking. You are supposed to be resting." "Yeah, well, resting is boring. And I need to get back to the ship. We have repairs to make." I helped him back into bed. He did not fight me. Mostly because he did not have the strength. "You are going to tear your sutures." "Probably. That is not a good thing." "I know." He winced as I checked his bandages. "But staying here is worse." I paused, looked at him. How is staying in a medical facility where you are receiving expert care worse than potentially dying from reopening your wounds? He was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made my 3 hearts skip a beat. "Because my crew is out there, and I am in here. And every second I am lying in this bed, I am not helping them. I am not doing my job. I am useless. There it was again. That word. That concept. Responsibility. Duty. The weight of obligation pressing down on them like gravity. You are recovering, I told him. That is your job right now. To heal. To get better. So that you can return to your crew at full capacity. That is not how it works for us. Then how does it work? He met my eyes. We do not quit. We do not give up. We push through. Because that is what humans do. We break ourselves into pieces trying to hold everything together, and maybe that is stupid. Maybe that is inefficient. But it is who we are. I did not know what to say to that. So I just finished checking his bandages, secured them properly, made sure nothing was actively bleeding. Stay in bed, I ordered, or I will sedate you. You would not. Try me. He grinned. You are getting the hang of this human thing, Doc. I left before I could say something unprofessional. Like how his determination to destroy himself for the sake of others was simultaneously admirable and infuriating. How humans seem to view self-preservation as optional rather than essential. Captain Webb was sitting in his bed when I checked on him. He had a data pad in his hands, ship schematics, damage reports, lists of repairs needed. You should be resting, I said. So should Liam. But I heard him crash into something, so I am guessing rest is not happening for any of us. He tried to walk, failed spectacularly, reopened some of his wounds. Webb sighed. That sounds like Liam. Does it not concern you? This tendency your species has to ignore medical advice every day. But worrying about it does not change anything. Humans are stubborn. We do not know how to stop, even when we should. I sat down in the chair next to his bed, uninvited, unprofessional, but I needed to understand. Why? What drives this behavior? This refusal to acknowledge your own limitations? He considered the question. Really considered it. Fear, mostly. Fear of what? Fear of being weak. Fear of letting people down. Fear that if we stop moving, if we stop fighting, everything will fall apart. He looked at his data pad, at the endless list of problems that needed solving. I am the captain. My crew looks to me for answers, for leadership, for strength. And if I show weakness, if I admit that I am scared or hurting or completely out of my depth, then what does that say about me? It says you are honest. He laughed. Bitter. Honesty is a luxury. Command is not. I thought about that. About the burden he carried. About the impossible standard he held himself to. You nearly died 6 days ago. I know. And yet here you sit. Working. Planning. Already trying to get back to your ship. Because my ship needs me. My crew needs me. And what I need does not matter as much as what they need. That is not sustainable. No, it is not. But it is necessary. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, that self-care was not selfish, that he could not pour from an empty cup, all the logical, rational arguments that made perfect sense. But I was beginning to understand that humans did not operate on logic. They operated on something else entirely, something messy and complicated and completely irrational. They operated on love, on loyalty, on a bone-deep need to protect the people they cared about, even at the cost of themselves. And that was terrifying. Because how do you treat a species that views self-sacrifice as virtue rather than pathology? Engineer Flores was different, quieter. She spent her days doing physical therapy, pushing herself, testing her limits. Her legs were healing well, better than I had expected. But the pain was significant. I could see it in the way she moved, the way she breathed. The micro-expressions that flickered across her face when she thought no one was watching. How is the pain? I asked during one of my examinations. Manageable. That is not what I asked. She looked at me, really looked at me. It hurts. every second of every day. It feels like fire and ice and broken glass all at once. My nerves are screaming. My muscles are screaming. Everything is screaming. I can increase your medication. No. Ands. Why not? Because I need to feel it. I need to know what my legs can handle, what they cannot. And if I am drugged up, I will not know my limits. I will push too hard. I will damage something permanently. I stared at her. You are using pain as a diagnostic tool. Yeah, basically. That is absurd. She shrugged. Maybe. But it works. Pain tells me things, tells me when to stop, when to slow down, when to push through. It is information, data, and I need that data to make good decisions. I sat down, processing. Most species try to eliminate pain. You are weaponizing it, not weaponizing. Utilizing. There is a difference. Is there? Pain is not the enemy. Pain is a warning system, a feedback mechanism. It tells us something is wrong so we can fix it. The problem is not the pain. The problem is what is causing the pain. Fix that, and the pain goes away. But you are not fixing it. You are enduring it, deliberately, because fixing it takes time, and while I am fixing it, I need to live with it. I need to function with it. I need to make peace with it. She flexed her ankle, winced. Pain is part of being human. We do not get to choose whether we experience it. We only get to choose how we respond to it. And there it was. Another piece of the puzzle. Another glimpse into the incomprehensible human relationship with suffering. They did not fear pain. They respected it. They listened to it. They treated it like a conversation partner rather than an invader. I left her to her exercises, my mind spinning, my understanding of medicine cracking at the foundations. On day 10, something happened that changed everything. Lieutenant Ose came to my office. She was not alone. She had brought another human. A civilian. A woman in her 50s with gray streaked hair and eyes that looked like they had seen too much. Vorix, this is Dr. Helen Park. She is a psychologist, specializes in trauma and pain management. I stood, extended my hand in the human custom. A pleasure. Dr. Park shook my hand. Her grip was firm but not aggressive. Professional. Lieutenant Ose has told me about your patients, about your observations. I wanted to talk to you about pain, if you have time. I had time. I made time, because I needed answers. And this human, this specialist in the psychology of suffering, might have them. We sat. She declined refreshments, got straight to the point. What do you want to know? She asked. Everything. Why do humans tolerate pain the way they do? Why do they seek it out? Why do they view it as anything other than a purely negative experience? She smiled. Those are big questions. I have the time. All right, let me start with the basics. Human pain is not just physical. It is emotional, psychological, spiritual. We experience it on multiple levels simultaneously. And because of that, we have developed complex coping mechanisms, strategies for dealing with suffering that go beyond simple pain management, such as meaning-making. Humans need to believe that our suffering serves a purpose, that it teaches us something, that it makes us stronger or wiser or more compassionate. Without meaning, pain is just torture. With meaning, pain becomes transformative. I thought about my patients, about Captain Webb carrying the weight of command, about Engineer Flores using pain as data, and about Private Cross joking through agony. They are all finding meaning in their suffering. Exactly. Webb's pain reminds him of his responsibility to his crew. Flores's pain tells her she is healing, that her body is fighting. Cross's pain proves he is alive. They have each constructed narratives around their suffering, and those narratives give them power over it. But the pain is still there, still real, still debilitating. Yes, but perception matters. Two people can experience the same injury, the same level of tissue damage, and have completely different pain experiences based on how they interpret what is happening to them. If you believe the pain is temporary, purposeful, and survivable, you will handle it better than if you believe it is permanent, meaningless, and unbearable. I leaned back in my chair. So human pain tolerance is not biological. It is psychological. It is both. Humans do have biological advantages: higher endorphin production, better neural gating mechanisms, more efficient pain modulation systems. But the real difference is cognitive. We can choose how we relate to our pain. We can accept it, befriend it, use it, or we can fight it and make it worse. That seems paradoxical. It is. But paradox is the human condition. We are walking contradictions. We want to avoid suffering, but we also know that suffering is inevitable. So we have learned to make peace with it, to integrate it into our identity, to wear our scars like badges of honor. She paused. Nan, then added, there is a concept in human psychology called post-traumatic growth. The idea that trauma and suffering can actually lead to positive psychological changes, greater appreciation for life, deeper relationships, increased personal strength, new possibilities, spiritual development. You are saying that pain makes humans better? I am saying that pain can make humans better if they choose to let it. If they do the work of processing it, integrating it, learning from it. Not all humans manage this. Some are destroyed by their suffering. But the ones who survive, who thrive, they often emerge stronger than they were before. I thought about my patients, about how they were already stronger, already healing, already making plans to return to the stars. How do I help them? I asked quietly. Dr. Park smiled. You already are. By listening, by respecting their choices, by understanding that healing is not just about fixing bodies. It is about honoring the people inside those bodies, their stories, their struggles, their stubborn, incomprehensible refusal to quit. She stood, extended her hand again. It has been a pleasure, Vorix. I hope we can talk again. I would like that. After she left, I sat alone, thinking. And for the first time since this whole ordeal began, I felt like I was starting to understand. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. Enough to know that I had been wrong. About pain, about humans, about what it meant to heal. On day 14, I cleared all 3 patients for limited duty, against my better judgment, but in accordance with their wishes. Captain Webb was first. I gave him strict instructions. No heavy lifting, no strenuous activity, regular monitoring. He nodded, thanked me, and immediately went to inspect his ship. Engineer Flores was next. She could walk, slowly, carefully, with pain medication and regular breaks, but she could walk. And the look on her face when she took her first steps without assistance was worth every hour I had spent reconstructing her legs. Private Cross was last. His chest was still healing. He would need another month of recovery before he could return to full duty. But he could move around, could help with light tasks. It could be useful. Thanks, Doc, he said as I signed his release forms, but for everything. You are welcome. Try not to die. He grinned. No promises. I watched them leave, watched them limp and shuffle and struggle their way back to their ship, back to their lives, back to the endless cycle of risk and danger and probable injury that defined existence on the frontier. And I understood. Finally, what made humans different? It was not their biology. It was not their pain tolerance. It was not their redundant organs or their remarkable healing. It was their choice, their conscious, deliberate choice to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep laughing in the face of impossible odds. They could have stayed, could have rested, could have taken the safe option, but they did not, because safe was not the point. Living was the point. And you could not truly live if you were always choosing safety over purpose. 3 weeks later, I received a transmission from the Frontier Dawn. They had completed their repairs. They were heading back out, into the unknown, into danger. Captain Webb appeared on screen. He looked good, healthy, strong. Just wanted to say thanks again, Doc, for saving us. I did my job. You did more than that. You saw us, really saw us, and that matters. I nodded. Will you be safe out there? He laughed. Probably not, but that is not really the point, is it? No, I suppose it is not. The transmission ended, and I sat in my office, looking at my medical journals, my research, my 342 cycles of accumulated knowledge, and I realized that I had learned more from 3 humans in 2 weeks than I had from centuries of practice. Because medicine is not about protocols. It is not about procedures. It is not about eliminating pain or fixing damage or restoring function. It is about understanding. About seeing the person behind the patient. About recognizing that healing is not just physical. It is emotional, psychological, spiritual. It is about accepting that some species will never make sense to you, that their choices will seem irrational, that their relationship with pain will be incomprehensible. But you can still help them. You can still heal them. You can still honor their autonomy and their agency and their stubborn, beautiful refusal to be victims of their circumstances. I updated my medical database that night, added new protocols, new approaches, new ways of thinking about pain and trauma and recovery. And in the notes section, I wrote something that would have horrified my younger self, my more certain self. Human pain cannot be understood. It can only be witnessed, respected, and honored. 6 months later, I received another transmission from Engineer Flores. She was running, actually running, her legs fully healed, fully functional. Better than before, she claimed. Just wanted to send proof, she said, grinning at the camera, that you were right. That fighting for what matters is worth it. That pain is temporary, but giving up is permanent. I saved that transmission. Watched it sometimes when I had patients who needed hope, who needed to see that healing was possible. That suffering did not have to be the end of the story. 1 year later, Private Cross sent me a photo. Him and a young woman, both smiling, both alive. She digs the scar, the message said. Told you. I laughed, actually laughed, because humans were ridiculous, completely ridiculous, and I loved them for it. Captain Webb was the last to contact me, 2 years after the incident. His message was short, simple. We found something out here, Doc, something amazing, something that makes all the pain worth it. Thought you should know. That's your work, your care. It led to this, to discovery, to wonder, to proof that the universe is bigger and stranger and more beautiful than we ever imagined. Thank you for giving us the chance to see it. I saved that message too, and when medical students asked me why I chose to specialize in xenobiology, in cross-species medicine, in the impossible task of understanding alien physiology, I showed them that message. I told them about 3 humans who refused to quit, who turned pain into purpose, who taught an old surgeon that he did not know everything, that certainty was the enemy of growth, that the best medicine was not found in textbooks but in listening, really listening, to what patients needed, what they feared, what they dreamed. I told them that I still did not understand human pain. Not really, not completely. But I had learned to respect it, to work with it, to recognize that my job was not to eliminate suffering but to help people navigate it, to give them the tools they needed to find meaning in their struggles, heal not just their bodies but their spirits. And sometimes, on quiet nights when the medical bay was empty and I was alone with my thoughts, I wondered if that was true for all species, if pain was not just a human thing but a universal thing, a shared experience that connected us all across the stars. If suffering was not the end of the story but the beginning, the catalyst, the fire that forged us into something stronger, something better, something worthy of the vast, incomprehensible universe we all called home. I never did get that drink Captain Webb promised me, but I did get something better. I got understanding. Incomplete, imperfect, but real. And in the end, that was enough. Because the thing about humans is this: they will break your heart. They will confuse you. They will make choices that defy logic and reason and every medical protocol you hold sacred. But they will also inspire you, humble you, show you that the universe is bigger than your understanding, that mystery is not something to be solved but something to be celebrated. They will teach you that pain is not the enemy. Fear is, apathy is, giving up is. And they will remind you every single day that being alive means being willing to hurt, to struggle, to fight for what matters even when the odds are impossible and the outcome is uncertain. That is not inefficient. That is not irrational. That is courage, pure, simple, human. And I am honored to have witnessed it, even if I will never fully understand it.